working.
Yeah.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Ballava Girivaradhare Gopi Jana Ballava Girivaradhare Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON Svandracharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, Shri Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Gopremanande. All glories to their Summa devotees, all glories to their Summa devotees, all glories to their Summa devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Could we just move the slide, please? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 12. Dhruva Maharaj goes back to Godhead. Text 34. Tatra, Tatra, Prasham Sadbi, Pati, Vaimanikai, Surai, Avakiryamano, Dadrishe, Kusumai, Kramasho, Grahan, Tatra Tatra Prasham Sadbi, Pati Vaimanikai Surai, Avakiryamano Dadrishe, Kusumai Kramasho Grahan, Tatra Tatra Prasham Sadbi, Pati Vaimanikai Surai, Avakiryamano Dadrishe, Kusumai Kramasho Grahan, Tatra Tatra Prasham Sadbi, Pati Vaimanikai Surai, Avakiryamano Dadrishe, Kusumai Pramasho Grahan, Tatra tatra, here and there, prashamsad be, by persons engaged in the praise of Dhruva Maharaj. Pati, on the path, Vaimanikai, carried by different types of airplanes. Surai, by the demigods. Avakiryamana, being covered. Dadrishe, could see. Kusumai, by flowers. Kramasha, one after another. Grahan, all the planets of the solar system. Translation. While Dhruva Maharaj was traveling through space, he gradually saw all the planets of the solar system, and on the path he saw all the demigods in their airplanes showering flowers upon him like rain. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There is a Vedic version, Yasmin Vigyate Sarvam, Evam Vigyatam Bhavati, Mundaka Upanishad chapter 1 verse 3, which means that by knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything becomes known to the devotee. Similarly, by going to the planet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can know all the other planetary systems on the path to Vaikuntha. We should remember that Dhruva Maharaj's body was different from our bodies. While boarding the Vaikuntha airplane, his body changed to a completely spiritual golden hue. No one can surpass the higher planets in a material body, but when one gets a spiritual body, he can travel not only to the higher planetary system of this material world, but even to the still higher planetary system known as Vaikuntha Loka. It is well known that Narada Muni travels everywhere, both in the spiritual and material worlds. It should be noted also that while Suniti was going to Vaikuntha Loka, she also changed her body into spiritual form. Like Sri Suniti, every mother should train her child to become a devotee like Dhruva Maharaj. Suniti instructed her son, even at the age of 5 years, to be unattached to worldly affairs and to go to the forest to search out the Supreme Lord. She never desired that her son remain at home comfortably without ever undertaking austerities and penances to achieve the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Every mother, like Suniti, must take care of her son and train him to become a brahmachari from the age of 5 years and to undergo austerities and penances for spiritual realization. The benefit will be that if her son becomes a strong devotee like Dhruva, certainly not only will he be transferred back home, back to Godhead, but she will also be transferred with him to the spiritual world. Even though she may be unable to undergo austerities and penances in executing devotional service. Tatra tatra prashamsadbi pati vaimanikai surai avakiryamano dadrishe kusumai kramasho graha. While Dhruva Maharaj was passing through space, he gradually saw all the planets of the solar system, and on the path he saw all the demigods in their airplanes showering flowers upon him like rain. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasna Bhutale Srimad Bhakti Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastichade Shatarne. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakapaturabhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Right. So, yes. Dhruva, well, Prabhupada begins the purport by pointing out that when you know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you can know everything. At least everything by His mercy is available to be known. This is really the wonder of devotional service in a sense, in that a devotee may be requested or instructed to perform a particular service which the devotee may not be familiar with. And it happened. It happens. It happened in Prabhupada's time. Devotees were sent to places to start centers and they didn't know really what to do. In fact, when Prabhupada took the first group of devotees to India, they were traveling around the country by train, and for a while they were all together and stopping here and there, and they would do programs and stay with people, and Prabhupada would do programs like that. But after a little while, they're traveling on by train, and Prabhupada, they'd come to some station, and Prabhupada would tell some devotee, okay, get out and start a center. This is what I'm told. And that devotee had to just step off the train, go into the town and just start a center. Talk about, anyway, that's interesting, isn't it? No, 3 months to raise some funds, make some contacts, and whatever else people might want to do to prepare. And Prabhupada, for example, told the devotees to print books. Buy a printing machine, print books. First of all, buy a Xerox, means in those days they were just called Xerox machines, but they're photocopiers, and photocopy things and just get something, ink on paper and distribute it. And the devotees didn't know, but they found out. And of course sometimes they found out by just inquiring, how do you do something, operate a machine. But the thing is that, for example, when we're preaching, it really happens a lot when we're preaching. Oi, Atmananota, just a sec. Where are you? You're in Zoom, are you?
Telegram.
Oh, you're in Telegram. So we should turn down the sound in Telegram, because you're doing it simultaneously. Just know. I can just. How do I turn down the speaker? But that's not. What did you just do? Can you still hear me?
Yes.
And I can still hear you. Yeah, because this is the JBL. So. It's Telegram. You have to turn off the speaker. Can you still hear me? Wait. Just say, I've turned the sound on again. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. But now you can't, can you? Because I can't hear Telegram either. So is it working okay when I turn down the volume?
Yes, it's working okay.
Okay, here we go. Prodolžajam. Just a sec. There and this here. Yes, so particularly when one is preaching, then, of course, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita makes the point, chapter 15, verse 15, such a famous and important verse. I'm going through the Bhagavatam now in really quite some detail. And so often Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam purports quotes 15:15. There's about, I don't know really how many, but it's not really more than about 10, and I'm sure it's less than 20 verses which Prabhupada is just repeatedly quoting. Interesting point. So one of them is 15:15, in which Savasya Chaham Riti Sanivishto Matasmriti Gyanam Aponam Cha. Lord Krishna is saying how he's the one who supplies remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. It's not just us, like as a sort of a faculty of our own which we have control over, that we can just remember when we want, whatever we want. Sometimes it seems like that, because memory is there, and so sometimes we just remember things, and it seems like it's just our capacity. But then sometimes we can't remember some things, particularly when you get old. You become expert at forgetting things. It's incredible, actually. It's amazing. But anyway, forgetfulness is just there anyway. Everybody knows that. Sometimes you forget a person's name, and it can be awkward sometimes, but it just happens sometimes. You forget things which otherwise you were remembering. So that's just illustrating that remembrance is not just under our control like a computer. You just press the button and the thing comes up every time. It's under Krishna's control. And particularly when we're preaching, I remember, I told this little story before, but it was really quite an experience I had when I first joined the temple. In London, I joined on a Sunday, and either the second or third, maybe it was the third or maybe it was the second Sunday after, there was the Sunday program and the Sunday feast, which was very, very nice. And being a new boy, very new boy, I grabbed a nice plate of prasadam, found some quiet little spot where I wouldn't be disturbed or interrupted, and was just about to start when one young man came and sat, like just literally almost in the plate of prasadam, but just right there, and in a very earnest way said, "Please tell me about Krishna. Please tell me. I want to know." And, well, two things. One was I didn't know a lot about Krishna, and at least I knew that. But the other thing was I was enthusiastic to engage in service to prasadam. So actually the thought entered my mind, oh no, some sort of reservation like that. But what could I do? So I tried to speak to him about Krishna, although, like I said, I really didn't know a lot. But, it was all very simple. But still, it just kept coming. And I just kept talking to him. He asked a couple of questions here and there, but maybe half an hour or so, I was just talking and talking. And then we noticed everyone's getting up, so then off he went, and I had my prasadam. But I felt two things. One was, that was amazing that it could only have been Krishna, even though they were simple things and not like esoteric things sort of coming out of apparently nowhere. But I really felt that Krishna had intervened and was supplying understanding and some sort of clarity in terms of presenting it like that. I really felt like that. But then the other thing I felt was that actually preaching is better, feels better than eating prasadam, which is an interesting realization. And I think there's a lot to be said about that and for that. Yeah, of course we've got to get into it. But when we're preaching to all sorts of different people, sometimes different forums, one-on-one to groups and so on like that. And even sometimes different subjects, definitely different aspects of Krishna consciousness or the application of Krishna consciousness sometimes. And if you've read fairly extensively, at least we could say, if you've done what Srila Prabhupada said we should do, and that is read all his books, and particularly Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Caitanya Charitamrita, and Nectar of Devotion. There's a lot of information. There's a vast amount of information, and just to recall it, just like that, it's not easy. It is just up to you. So in preaching, one of the main parts of preaching is prayer. To pray to Krishna to help me say something appropriate, suitable like that. And Srila Prabhupada did the same thing. If you're familiar with Prabhupada's prayers on the Jaladuta, when he's coming in to America, Prabhupada appeals to Lord Krishna, please make my power of speech appropriate, something like that, so that I can give your message to these people who are just in another world altogether. And Krishna did, of course. So, yes, so the point is ultimately that if we know Krishna that if we really try to be in a mood of service and a service to Krishna, to the spiritual master, then the knowledge that you need to do whatever you're doing will come one way or the other. Either you'll get some facility which will supply knowledge, and or Krishna will just reveal what to do, how to do things. Yes, it'll come to you. So that's really wonderful part of Krishna consciousness, Because Krishna consciousness means ultimately just the term itself, at least in English, becoming conscious of Krishna. And when we see that Krishna is intervening, and it wasn't just me that through my ability managed to do whatever, but it was actually Krishna helping, that means you're becoming a little more conscious of Krishna, because he's a reality who's with us and who we can become conscious of. So anyway, here, the thing is, Dhruva's going. His body's just being transformed. Prabhupada says, while boarding the Vaikuntha airplane, because the Vaikuntha airplane, it is of Vaikuntha. It is not just an airplane, like a sophisticated airplane. It's actually part of Vaikuntha, and it retains its Vaikuntha nature and capabilities and just its state of existence wherever. So while boarding that completely spiritual airplane full of these completely spiritual great personalities, devotees, then naturally Dhruva Maharaja's body became transformed into that state. And his mother's body did also. His mother's body also, when she got onto her separate airplane, apparently, her body became transformed into a spiritual body with a spiritual golden hue. And in that way, of course, to travel to other planets in a material body, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the situation at all, but there's a whole lot of things going on about traveling to at least to the moon and even to other planets. The Indian government, are you aware, just landed a rocket, they say, on the moon. What do they say? Mera Bharat Mahan. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? My India is great. All glories to India. Yeah, so they did it. They got some machinery there on the moon. But for people to go on the moon, apparently, you can't just get up and just get on the moon. But these Vaikuntha inhabitants, you know, they can do these things. And, yeah. So, but for us, what to speak of the spiritual world, it appears that, at least they say, that if we are to go to material planets without material bodies, it's a whole thing. It's not simple at all. You need some complicated suit. So, but Dhruva Maharaj, he was flying by. He was passing through space. And we do not hear that he had a space helmet on or something like that. He was just there in his now spiritual body, going through space and passing through all these, or passing by all these higher planets in the material world, and then now he's entering Vaikuntha, or he's about to enter Vaikuntha. As he's passing by these higher material planets, the demigods are showering flowers on him and just rejoicing. And then off he goes to Vaikuntha in that same body. So everything becomes known to the devotee. That's one thing. But actually everything becomes possible for the devotee. by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in terms of the service of the devotee. If you need to learn how to cook, then it won't take long by Krishna's mercy. And if you need to go to Vaikuntha and get a spiritual body to go to Vaikuntha, by the Lord's mercy you'll be able to go with ease. Even in Brihad Bhagavatam, there's a description, Gopakumar says, he's describing to the Brahmin, right in the later part, that now my services, I go up and down from Goloka down to, he was on the earth planet at that time. And so he was on the earth planet, having come from Goloka. As far as we understand, well, it doesn't say that he stopped off anywhere. So it would appear he came straight from Goloka, straight to planet Earth. And just in the self-same body, which he had come from Goloka in, he's now sitting on this planet and just happily conversing and preaching by the Lord's mercy. So he says, he makes the point that as I travel, I just travel by these planets. We go right past these planets, and I can see the people. Means at close quarters, and I can see how they are. Not just like in the far distance, like we might see from an aeroplane when we're flying somewhere. But he actually sees the people in detail. And he says, one thing he says is that when I see the residents, I'm coming from Goloka Vrindavan, when I see the residents of Vaikuntha, it appears to me, when I compare them to the residents of Goloka, it appears to me they're quite miserable. Got to be pretty close to a person to see what their state of mind is. So he goes right by and sees. And even though they're in a type of ecstasy in Vaikuntha, which is, I would imagine, way beyond certainly whatever I may experience at the best of times. But compared to Goloka, it looks like they're miserable. Anyway, this is all going on because Yasmin Vigyate Sarvam Evam Vigyatam Bhavati. When you know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything becomes known, or whatever is necessary becomes known at least, but everything becomes possible in terms of your service to the Lord and your spiritual master. So like this, it's going on. He's getting on, he got on, and his mother got on Vaikuntha airplane, and both their bodies, they didn't have to do anything, any process to prepare their bodies or take anything to change some sort of functioning of the body. Their bodies just changed into pure spiritual bodies, Satchitananda, from being. Now, of course, this is Satya Yuga, their bodies are better than ours, but they're definitely still subject to birth, death, old age, and disease, even though the matter that their bodies are made of is of a far higher grade than the matter our bodies are made of, but it's still matter. Just like dogs, their bodies are also earth, water, fire, air, and ether, flesh and blood and bones and a nervous system. digestive system and all these things like ours, but because their bodies are of a different grade of matter to ours, then they only live maybe to their teens or something like that. And I read something actually a couple of months ago. There was a dog who was, what was the age, like 25 years old or something. And he's in the Guinness Book of Records. The oldest dog in recorded history, 25. But we, by the time we're 25, we're just reaching the point where physically we're the strongest. So, yeah. Otherwise, normally a cow, if a cow's 15, it's an old cow. So their bodies, Dhruva and his mother, their bodies were changed into spiritual forms just on the spot. At least that's, nothing else is said, that they were put through some sort of process to change the composition of their bodies. And as Prabhupada makes the point, the same things there with Narada Muni. Narada Muni goes here and there, material world, spiritual world, Vaikuntha, Goloka, Earth, other planets, other universes, just as he is. And he travels through space, the space between the planets, just as he is. There is, I forget exactly where it is, but there's a picture of Narada Muni flying through space, old picture, you know that one? He's sort of leaning back a little, holding the Veena, and you can see he's in outer space, traveling through space. From what we understand, you can't do that with these bodies. Even with these bodies, you know, if you go up to a higher altitude, I've been up to Badrinath a couple of times, and at Badrinath, just past Badrinath in the Himalayas, there's this little village called Mana. It's just like 2 or 3 kilometers from Badrinath. And in Mana is Vyasadev's cave. At least that's what they say. And Ganesha's cave, where they wrote, where Vyasadeva recited all the Vedic literatures, and Ganesh wrote down all the Vedic literatures. And Badrinath is at about 3,000 something, 3,500 meters, 10,000 feet. And because of that, the air, I think there's less oxygen in the air. Anyway, there's definitely something about the air. And to walk up, I don't know if any of you have been there, to walk up from down a bit, up to Vyasadev's cave, it's not far. It's like from here to the temple room, or something like, up to the temple room. It's not far. But I can't do it in one go. The devotees, of course, it's a bit of a sort of a game or a rustle or something. They push me up, the young ones, after a while, so I can get up. Otherwise I couldn't do it, because you just lose breath. So, when you get further up, it gets worse. But, more difficult for typical humans to breathe. But Narada Muni is just flying around. That's his program. And Gopakumar, it appears, flying around interplanetarily, visiting people and preaching to them and so on like that, in the same body. This is the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, facilitating the devotee in terms of the devotee's needs and service. So in that way, we shouldn't be too scared of accepting some challenging service if, the appropriate devotees feel that we should, or, it would be a good thing for us to do. Because we should have that type of faith that if the devotees want, then, and if I try my best, Krishna will help me. Krishna will empower me and make whatever arrangements are required. When Tamal Krishna Goswami was instructed by Srila Prabhupada to go to China, he asked Prabhupada, where am I going to get association? Because there were literally no devotees at all there. And Prabhupada said, you make your own association. I think Prabhupada just said it. He didn't think, well, gosh, I don't know. But let's think about it. Prabhupada just knew, you go somewhere, that's what he did. You just make association. Yeah. So then, well, we can just touch on the second paragraph here. Prabhupada talks about mothers and their children, looking after their children in Krishna consciousness and really helping their children in Krishna consciousness. I mean, some of you, mothers, one, some of you may become, anyway, whatever, but it's very important. It's very important for the mothers to train their children. Prabhupada just talks about sons, which is particularly, it's kind of the way he tends to express himself. But of course, it's the daughters also. They need to be taken care of so they're sheltered and safe within this fantastically ghastly material world. But then beyond just the basic types of feeding and clothing and so on, they need to be trained. Yeah. Prabhupada says the son should be trained to become a brahmachari from the age of 5 and to undergo austerities and penances for spiritual realization. Not just keep the child at home comfortably and, sitting in front of television whenever he gets a chance, or, his computer games, telephone games, whatever. Yeah. The result will be the son will become a strong devotee like Dhruva Maharaj. I mean, that's quite something to become strong like Dhruva Maharaj. But it can be. It could be. And certainly to become strong, fixed up in Krishna consciousness, and trying to become ready for going back to Godhead. And then if she does that, she'll also benefit. Even though she may not be able to live, I mean, it depends on her, but in so many cases, ladies can't live as austere a way of life as men. Anyway, But at least that's sort of the traditional idea. But through doing that service, helping the child or children become as Krishna conscious as is possible, then the mothers will get great mercy and be able to go back to Godhead themselves. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any comments, questions, words of wisdom? Yes.
Prabhupada says that you need a certain amount of piety to go to the moon planet or to any of the heavenly planets. So, how is it? You know, people have actually, like, basically they have like gate crashed onto the moon, you know, without.
Apparently the Russians crashed, but the Indians had a safe landing. Well, you know, an interesting little point. It's not something, you know, I want to get into or that I feel we should, but generally. But Prabhupada, although he generally, I mean, he sometimes even scoffed at the idea of going to these other planets. And other times he just said, no, they can't. But there are times where Prabhupada said they may have, may be possible. There are places like that. So, you know, my answer would be Hare Krishna. And, you know, if I was you, I wouldn't even think about it. What to speak of worry about it? Will I go to the moon? There was a favorite song of Frank Sinatra's my father would play, Fly Me to the Moon. I don't want to go to the moon. We should just work on things here. Yeah. And then worry about it. Let them worry about it. Who knows? Maybe it'll become exposed, even the Indians, as a hoax. Maybe they made a movie about it, saying like a typical movie with actors, not like a documentary, saying it was a hoax. Capricorn something. We all went and saw it in London years ago. And they showed, I mean, they illustrated, it was like a drama. They showed how it was hoaxed. Yeah, and it was exposed, the hoax was exposed at the end. But let them worry about that. And if they come to, you know, if they actually have gone there and it's sort of objectively a fact, then, and if they come to us and say, oh, look, you know, your founder said this and that, well, we can say that he did actually say that it may be possible. I just came across something, well, actually it was some couple of months ago in the Bhagavatam where Prabhupada made some comment like that in the Bhagavatam. Is that okay? It'll have to be. Okay. Yes.
Yes, I mean, Prabhupada said both things, going, definitely not going. But one thing he was consistent about, that if they did go, they cannot live there.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of piety and qualification to be able to live there.
Yes, because if they actually are going there, well, you know, it's in Sariputa's, one of his books. He says that those people, those demigods, they're clever enough that they can create a scenario, a false scenario, on a heavenly planet where it looks like just, you know, like a piece of rock floating in the sky. Yeah, it's not difficult for them. And so you may have a sort of a dual type of reality for the real local people and the visitors. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That's all, devotees.
both.